What's up, guys? Travis here from Snakeden Entertainment and Bringer, Samara, and the future Gray Matter Records. The video you're about to watch is the culmination of a bunch of footage that I was about to scrap from a year and a half ago. I had purchased an E350 van and was getting ready to restore it to make it a camper slash bandwagon. And I had gotten everything, or so I thought, everything mechanically sound. And a week prior, seeing all the posts from my friends in Squid Hammer and War about this Toledo Deathfest had finally worn me down. So I called tickets to the show and made my way out to Toledo. Well, about a half hour into my trip, the transmission in the van made a noise. And I planned on documenting the whole trip. Like we restored this van, we got it ready, and we drove it out there. How exciting. But instead of victory, we ended up in defeat. And a half hour out, I limped it home, only to find out the transmission was junk. So I figured rather than be defeated, I'd rise from the ashes, get my personal vehicle, and go out to Toledo Deathfest on my own, in my own personal car. And a knee-jerk reaction, I saw the footage, and I was like, this is boring. I don't think people will enjoy this at all. I went back and revisited the footage and thought, man, this is the point where I actually discovered myself. As you'll see in the video, I talk about going through hard times. I mention being raised in my discovery in music and my discovery of heavy music. And this is, I believe this point a year and a half ago is where I actually discovered who I am. And it's really weird to come to that conclusion when you're in your 40s. So, like, I'd always known what I wanted to do. I just don't think I made the leap. And this 5-hour trip out to the other side of Ohio cemented that. To me, really hammering down and making things happen in my life, really finding out who I am. And I owe that all to music, underground music and other music. So what better way than to feature other bands? And you're probably going to ask yourself throughout that I feature 3 major label bands and 2 independent bands. And I thought this was an independent music show. It is an independent music show. But what I'm trying to say is the 2 independent bands could be those major label bands if we went out and supported all our friends' bands and the underground bands. And as far as that goes, I understand that some of it is just playing on my stereo in the car. In fact, most of it, all but the Mississippi Bones song at the end. And that's just kind of part of the slop of how I do things. Like, it's not, I don't think slop is the right word. It's just part of the fly by the seat of my pants. I don't want any of this show to ever be scripted or to seem like it's forced. I want everything to be very natural. And you know what? Naturally, I'm not a videographer. I'm not a script writer. I'm not an actor. You know what I am? I'm a dude who really loves music and loves what it's done for me in my entire life. So if you guys could please join me in part 1 of, it's either going to be 2 or 3. We haven't decided yet. And trust me, things do get more exciting as it goes on when I finally get to the show. So enjoy this. It's part of me finding myself. And hopefully you guys get something out of it too, at least a little bit. Because I know I got a lot out of making the trip, and I've always got a lot out of music. It's always been a safety net for me. It's always been to my left while I'm on the journey that is life, and I'm glad it's always been there to help me find who I really am and what I'm really made of. So here we go. I was always there were people that were around me that had these expectations constantly that I needed to hit all the time, and it was a constant battle with making those people happy and making myself happy. Well, you know, I went through a life of struggle. It wasn't the worst life in the world. People have had way worse lives than I have, but you know, it wasn't exactly easy for me growing up at any given time, and I went through a few traumatic things over the past 5 or 6 years, and it kind of rewired my mind a little bit to a point where, you know, I've as long as my family is doing well, I'm gonna do me. Like I've always depended on everybody else to make shit happen. Like, you know, man, I really want to do this, but I don't have anybody to go with. Like, I made a pact with myself a year or two ago. Like, if I want to do it, I'm gonna go do it. If you want to tag along, cool, great, fantastic. I would love for you to come along, but if you can't, I'm still gonna go do it. I missed out on too much opportunity sitting on the sidelines because I was too afraid to make moves. With people holding expectations on you, it makes you constantly think in the back of your head that you need to be perfect. But trust me on this, you don't have to be perfect. To succeed at anything, you have to fail. How else are you gonna figure it out? Especially when you're young. I mean, I'm not young anymore, but if I had taken the chances when I was young, my God, the things I could have done, you know? But the way I look at it now is I'm going at it with a whole bunch of experience, you know? Alright guys, first scheduled stop of the trip. We're only about a half hour into it, which is kind of a downer, but that's not a big deal. It's a Sheetz that I'm familiar with just off 80 in Brookville, and on a whim I decided to stop at Get Go, because the Get Go in town sometimes has better beverage selection, and I'm totally glad I did. I don't know if people outside of Pennsylvania know how awesome Turner's tea is, but yeah, we got us a little bit of some of that. But it wasn't it was a scheduled stop for supplies. You need supplies when you're on a road trip, absolutely. So back to it. Well, while we're stuck in traffic coming onto the Ohio Turnpike, I figure what better time than to answer some more questions about things I get asked all the time. I get asked a lot, like, why are you in a band at 40? Why are you still doing this after all this time? Like, you know, must be real fun playing rock star and all this and that. But to me, man, it's just, it's an artistic outlet. Like, being able to write songs and to see the response from the crowd of something that you worked on, that you put out there, and hearing from other people, like, even though it's like it's a select small crowd that I hear this from, you know, it's hearing from them that, like, how what it means to them, or like with Endbringer, we've had to cancel a show or two in the past due to illness, and hearing about how disappointed people get, you know, like that they actually are looking forward to us playing, or when you play. Hearing somebody tell Rugg after a Samara show how great his guitar sounded on whatever, pick a song, and it's, I don't know, to see your friends happy and to see other people get happy, it's really cool. Which brings me back to something that I said a little while ago with the you know, always people pleasing and growing up. The band thing was something that I was always into music from the time I was a little kid. Like, when I first heard my uncle's Kiss and Black Sabbath records, it blew my mind. Like, from there, and then the older I got, the more you discovered the underground and the independent bands and things like that. And it kind of tripped me out how hard it was to discover these bands.
I'm getting sidetracked, so we'll come back to this later. I guess what I was trying to say earlier is, you know, when I was younger, everybody had all these expectations stacked on top of me, and music was my outlet. Like being an artist was my outlet, writing down my thoughts and feelings in these little poems that I would hope to someday sing in front of somebody. That was where it was at, and then you know, learning how to play new instruments always. It gave me more of an outlet. I mean, even though I wasn't really that great and still am not that great at instruments, it still fueled the fire to keep everything going. And it was one of those things that nobody could take away from me. Was my artistic integrity, I guess. And then at the end of the day, like, I would have bands that I loved and the songs that meant something to me. Once again, like, you can't take that away from anybody. When they find something that they love, like, you just, especially if it's a song or a thought or an idea, you can't ever crush that. You can't ever beat that out of anybody. So all this rambling on my road trip all by myself teaches you anything. It's like what you like, be yourself. Just don't be a dick. Jesus.